I think many of you know that Letty and I lived in the island of Puerto Rico for over 9 years. And we lived in the area of San Juan, a place called Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. And I served congregations in one of the largest towns in Puerto Rico called Bayamón. It is larger than San Juan itself. And I served 2 congregations there before I was elected bishop. One of the things about living in the Caribbean is that you kind of get used to the hurricane season. In fact, every year when I was bishop, I would travel to the Virgin Islands because they had a very special day during the beginning of hurricane season. And that was that congregations would gather on the beach and they would pray. They would pray that during this season of hurricanes, God would protect them and protect the lives of their families, friends, and neighbors. Hurricane season in the Caribbean is really a difficult time, but you kind of get used to it. And I remember living in Puerto Rico, and one thing about hurricanes is that you know at least a month before that a hurricane is coming. And one of the things that people say is that, well, you know, you have so much time, you can prepare for these hurricanes. And so what used to happen during hurricane season is that all of a sudden, when you hear over the radio or over the television or read in the newspapers that a hurricane is heading towards the islands and towards Puerto Rico, everybody would rush to the supermarkets. And they'd stock up with food and they'd stock up with water. And they really began to prepare. Everybody would put wood on their windows if they didn't have hurricane shutters. And they'd get ready. One of the things that used to happen is that sometimes, because of the mountain ranges in Puerto Rico, the hurricanes would turn north and they would miss the island. And everybody would rejoice. Even though their refrigerators and their things were filled with water and food, they would rejoice, for the hurricane missed the island of Puerto Rico. And one of the things that you'd hear over the radios is, my goodness, would say all of the radio preachers, God has really blessed Puerto Rico. We are really a people of faith. This is God's place, and that is one of the reasons that the hurricane missed us. Because God is rewarding us for all of the good that we do. Incredible. Well, one year that I was in Puerto Rico, we heard again, another hurricane is approaching. And everybody again ran to the stores, and all the shelves are emptied, and everybody stocked up with water. I remember that I even filled my bathtub up with water to make sure that we had water. Because when a hurricane hit, your water would be shut down for at least a month, if not more. And I remember asking our neighbor who had a power plant if we could hook up an extension cord so that we would also have electricity during that time. For you see, that would be a long time without water or power in Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, this time, the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, and destruction was massive. Massive indeed. And you would hear the preacher saying, well, this is because there is so much evil in Puerto Rico now. And God is coming to punish us. And God has punished us for all of the evil that exists. And I would think to myself, this is not the kind of God that I believe in. This is not a God who is a punishing God. I don't believe in a God who would take vengeance on his people. People that he created in his own image. People in whom he has breathed life. This is not the kind of God that we believe in. It is amazing how interested people become and how ears stand and everybody listens when you talk about the end of time. This is one of the issues and one of the things that we all would like to know. And yet the gospel for the Sunday morning tells us a very different story and a very different outcome. The gospel for this Sunday morning begins with Jesus and his disciples walking into the temple in Jerusalem. And as the disciples enter the temple, they look around and they are amazed at all of the beauty and all of the splendor that surrounds and that is within that temple. I remember when I visited Jerusalem and I visited the church, Christmas church in Jerusalem, and I walked in and I was amazed. And I couldn't stop looking at all of the wonders within that temple and how beautiful that place was. I even had the opportunity to preach at that church. And as I walked up and began my sermon, I just looked around at all of the beauty that surrounded us. And I said, oh my gosh, how awesome and how wonderful is our God. How awesome and wonderful indeed. But then you know what? Jesus throws a little stone and stops that wheel from turning. Jesus says, yeah, all of this stuff is really amazing and beautiful indeed, but it is temporary. This is all going to fall. This is all going to fall indeed. But there is one thing that I offer you that will never collapse. There is one thing that I offer you that will never drop away. There is one thing that I am giving you and giving you because I love you that will never ever cease to be. And that is the love that I have for you. That is the love in which I have for you. A love in which I sent my only Son in order to build up again all that which is falling. I have sent my Son in order to again unite us. I have sent my Son to live and to die for you. I have sent my Son to embrace you and to show you how much I care and how much I love you. And yes, all the beautiful things in the temple will be destroyed. You know, one of the things that I grew up in New York, I used to love February because I love cars. I really do. And I like going to the car shows. I like looking at all those cars that I will never ever own. And I am amazed how beautiful they really are. And I remember growing up and going to the car shows and saying, you know, I want to learn more and more about cars. And so I did. I remember taking my car apart and putting the engine back. I remember fixing the brakes in my car. Part of that was because I was too cheap to pay the $100 and something to have it fixed. So I learned how to do that. One day, when I first began fixing my car, I was changing the brakes in my car. And I was following and I tried to remember where every screw came from and where everything was placed. And when I finally finished, I looked down and there was one bolt left. And I couldn't remember where it went. Well, I said to myself, well, can't be really that important. And so I put it away. And I was so proud. And I felt so good that I had fixed my Volkswagen. That I had changed the brakes myself. And it looked so good. And I remember going out on Saturday mornings and polishing my car and waxing it, and it was really shiny. But you know what? After a couple of weeks of driving the car, I began to hear clack, 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 clack. And I said, my goodness, the bolt. The bolt that I found to do. So even the most amazing things, the most wonderful things, don't last forever. Even though we think that we can do everything and fix everything, sometimes we can't. I ended up taking my whole brakes apart again, trying to find where that little bolt went. One of the things that the gospel for this Sunday morning tells us is that we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry that there's a bolt missing in our lives. We don't have to worry that things are going to come down, because the one thing that will hold us firm is our love and God's love for us. The one thing that will keep us safe is that God so loved the world, God so loved you so much that He sent His Son into this world in order to embrace you, in order to love you, in order to care for you. And you know what? There was no bolt missing there. God and our Lord Jesus Christ, through our baptism, through the celebration of communion this Sunday morning, God is again present and putting us all back together again. He is embracing us with His arms, and He is keeping us firm and holding us together in the midst. And no matter if everything falls apart around us, God continues to hold you firm. And not a single hair in your head will be lost. For you are His, and He is your God. The Sunday morning is Commitment Sunday. We're going to stand up as a congregation, and we're going to say to this community, Living Waters Lutheran Church is God's house in this place. God is present, and when you look upon this church, you will see God who is alive and well in your life, in your community, and in your world. And nothing will be able to tear that down. Thanks be to God, who has loved us, who continues to care for us, continues to embrace us, continues to sustain us, and to hold us firm. Amen.